Hello, welcome to our diplomatic notice. I'm Anstasia. I'm a business analyst working in IT market, and today I'm happy to be here and have this conversation with Mr. Volker Friedrich. And first I want to introduce you. Mr. Volker has a huge experience in Asia market. He's working and building the bridge between German and Asian businesses. Also, he's a CEO and founding partner of GBP International. I hope I correctly introduce you.
Well prepared, perfect. Yeah.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. And today we are going to discuss about European tax war in electric vehicle market. And I want to start with general questions. Mr. Volker, please, could you tell us about the global situation in electric vehicle market? How do you see the future? And also which challenge do you see for now and for the future?
Okay, thank you very much, Anstasia, for the nice introduction. And coming right into the topic of the automotive market, I think we have to distinguish between the traditional automotive cars and car manufacturers and the new companies which have been showing up over the last 5 to 10 years in the electrical vehicle market. And if we look at the global pictures, of course, the elephant in the room are the companies from China who are basically giving all the others a run for their money. And in a structural way, we have seen Tesla as a new market entrant, probably about 5-8 years ago. They were starting and were extremely successful. First of its kind, they have been the mover and the shaker in the industry. They have set up factories outside the US, here in Berlin as well. They are in the process of expanding heavily in India, in China, in Indonesia. Malaysia is in the rumors. So Tesla is one of the companies which is the mover and the shaker. On the other hand, if we look at the Chinese competitors, companies like BYD or Xiaomi, NIO, they are new entrants and they come up with a totally different concept. Not so much on, let's say, technical performance, but rather on luxury and feel-good factor of the drivers and the passengers in the car. And if you look at the German companies, they are traditionally very successful and very focused on technical aspects, extreme power, high-end engineering and quality. And that is what has made the German car industries very successful over the last 30, 40 years probably, including China. And to have a BMW or a Mercedes or a Porsche in China was very much a status symbol. And that is really changing these days. And if you look at the sales numbers in China of the German car manufacturers, they are really scratching their head and asking themselves, what are we supposed to do? The Chinese consumers, they are not so let's say, motivated anymore to have this status symbol of a Porsche or a Mercedes. They rather go for made-in-China models, which are in their analysis equally good, but they cost probably 30-40% less of the investment. So this is a global scenario. We have the traditional European, American car manufacturers. We have new entrants like Tesla. And we have the challengers from China. And at the moment, I would say the Chinese manufacturers, they are really having the momentum on their side. So the other traditional car companies, they really need to reposition themselves, get their act together, come up with new models, which are also addressing the needs of the new consumer in Asia.
Sorry, interrupt. Which country do you think is a leader nowadays?
Well, I think by all means it's China at the moment. Yeah? They have started very early. They have rolled out all the infrastructure in terms of charging stations. They are coming up with autonomous driving. They are testing it in Shenzhen and other major cities. They have the infrastructure. They have all kinds of ranges. They have very cheap models, but also luxury models. So they are serving the whole consumer bandwidth, and they are being pushed by the by the government. So it's I would put my money on China. On the other hand, you never should underestimate the innovation capacity of the German car manufacturers. I mean, they are not giving up easily and close shop tomorrow, that's for sure. And if you look at the research capacities they have with Volkswagen, Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, etc., I'm very sure they have a lot of interesting technologies in their pipeline. But I have to say, our German friends are always a little bit slow. And while they are developing these smart and new technologies, they are losing market shares in their traditional market. So this is, in a nutshell, how I would describe the electric vehicle market.
Really interesting. And I want to know your opinion. Do you think which strategy would be really successful to be with China or to be away of China, and which relationship it would be?
Well, I think China, by all standards, is one of the largest, if not the largest market for the car industry. So to give up on China would be like packing my bag and go home. So I would see China as a fitness club, basically, for our German friends, and they need to face the competition. Of course, we all know sometimes they complain competition is not always fair in China, but that's nothing new. We know that ever since we entered China. And we have to play along, of course, the political guidance or the political support has to be there in terms of fair competition, in terms of, let's say, balanced subsidies and not extreme subsidies. So China is definitely the market where you have to be if you want to be a global player. Another aspect you can really mention is that if you want to be successful in China and sell your product in China, there is no way you can just export your product from Germany or Europe to China. You have to become a local added value player. That means you have a joint venture partner or even your own production, and you have to produce locally, with local suppliers, local subcontractors, local distributors, and that is not easy. That is a real challenge for everybody who is in that game.
Yeah, I understand. And I know a lot of German cars are manufactured in China, and I think this situation like this war affects them. How do you see this?
Well, we are having the discussion at the moment about penalty tariffs on Chinese exports into Europe as like a penalty, so to say. But in a way, if you look at the numbers, the Europeans are shooting in their own foot, because the Chinese cars which are exported from China to Europe, a large number of these cars are German branded cars manufactured in China, re-exported to Europe. And that certainly cannot be the target of the penalties. So, all the customs and duties and tariffs, in my view, as a liberal economist, should be abandoned and let fair competition take shape. Of course, I'm not naive, we're not living in a perfect world, but it can be done smarter than just hitting with tariffs and eye for eye, teeth for teeth. That is not a smart strategy in my view.
Yeah, can you please tell us some more about these extra duties and tariffs which German government or European Union government are going to impose on Chinese-made cars? What is it exactly about? And also, we are like waiting for a mirroring tariff from China to European Union, and how it's
exactly. This is the situation, and I think it all started when the United States introduced the penalty tariff on semiconductors and chips. I don't have the details with me, but this is how this tit for tat protective tariffs discussion started. And I think at the moment it's under negotiation behind closed doors, which is good. So it's not done via the media. And we have to wait for the outcome. I hope that there is a very moderate and minimum tariff or penalty, so that we are not seeing an escalation of the trade war again, which doesn't help anybody.
How does this situation already affect on this market? Because I also read that some companies, big, huge Chinese companies, car makers, close their head office in Munich. It's Great Wall Motor. I read this information.
Great Wall,
Yeah. What do you think it is?
Well, I think
Why it happened?
you really have to go deep into the numbers, and when China started their market offensive in Europe, and in Germany especially, because Germany is the largest car market in Europe, and they invested heavily in sales and marketing. I mean, for example, NIO, they have a very fantastic showroom here in the center of Berlin. It will cost them a bomb, just to rent it. But the sales numbers are not picking up. And that is something which could have been predicted if they would have had smart market analysts, because traditionally the German car customers, they are very loyal in their brands. So it's very difficult to convince a Mercedes customer to say, okay, here is a BYD car, it has the same performance, it only costs you 50%. They will say, no, better not. Yeah? So it needs some extra convincing, and I think this is lacking in the Chinese marketing strategy. And they are spending lots of money. For example, in the Euro football tournament, you saw huge advertisement campaigns from BYD. I personally doubt very much that this results in one more car sales in Germany. So, I mean, it's a challenge for China to gain market share here. So we will see what the outcome is, and if they have the stamina. If you say they are closing now, that's certainly not a good sign, So.
Yeah, and I also read that Chinese government have some subsidies for import cars in Germany or in European Union.
Certainly they do.
Yeah, and now maybe this strategy will be changed because of these penalties and.
It's a little bit like a domino stone game. You tip one stone and then there's a chain reaction, and that all has to be seen in a 360 perspective. Yeah.
And how do you see domestic politics strategy in electric vehicle market? Maybe also about Robert Habeck, how he is his point of view and your point of view about.
Well, in Europe or in Germany, we have a clear plan or clear path towards electrification of the car industry. Again, we have a resolution by the European Parliament that I think by the year 2030, if I'm not mistaken, all new car registrations have to be electric. Yeah? So there is a clear path for the car industry. Hey, in future, we are not going to allow you to sell benzene or diesel cars anymore. So the car industry has a clear plan. We will have to change our production strategy, and we have to focus on electrical vehicles. The path is not an easy one, because it is one thing to say to the customer, okay, now you buy an electrical vehicle, but for example, if you don't have the charging station next to you, what are you going to do? So you keep your old car and just drive the old car until it's falling apart with all the negative side impacts. So the strategy, I think it's well-intentioned. It is nice to think everybody is driving electric only, but the reality check has to be made and say, well, what are the costs? What is the cost of maintenance? Am I able to drive to my work? Where and how can I charge the car overnight if I don't have a villa and a family house with a solar panel on my roof? What happens if I'm just living here in one of these apartment blocks? Where do I charge the car? And then what about distance? How far can you go? So it's not an easy thing where you just snap with your finger and say we change it to electric. It's a big project.
It is more political view, not business view, for this strategy.
Exactly, Like so often, I mean, the political message or the vision is nice. We want to have a clean environment. We want to have electrical cars. We want to have zero CO2. But how do you do it? That's the key question, and this is where the best brains have to come together and work it out.
And I think also domestic strategy, German strategy is allowed to improve relationship with China, or maybe we have some problem to be full of Chinese products in the future, or do you think it would be limit or not? Or
I think the Chinese-German relationship has always been a good one. Yeah? And you can go back to the chancellors, Schmidt, Kohl, Merkel. They all had a focus on maintaining and improving the relationship, and Germany benefited largely by the growth of the Chinese economy. And most companies I know, they have a large share of their revenue and turnover with China. So Germany and the German economy has a huge interest to continue to do business with China. And likewise, China also likes German products. They buy the technology, they buy the machines. So I think it goes without saying that the German-Chinese relationship has to be maintained. But of course we know the, let's say, the challenges. And we know the new German strategy of China plus one or decoupling, however you want to call it. And that is not something new to China. And China is, I would say, very relaxed about it. And there is a Chinese saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah? And this is exactly what we are now putting in a strategy paper, basically. Yeah? It doesn't make sense for any company just to have one customer or one partner country. So if Germany now says, well, maybe if we look at Asia, it's not a good idea to do business in China only. We also have to have a footprint in India, in Vietnam, in Malaysia, in Indonesia. And don't put all your eggs on China, because if the basket falls off the table, all eggs are broken, and that's not a good plan for anybody. So, and all the, let's say, the critical aspects when we talk about China, they should not be forgotten. And they have to be addressed properly in the right format, at the right place, with the right people. And it's never good in diplomatic or in politics to discuss or to try to find a solution via the newspaper or the internet or TikTok or Twitter. So that is something, let's say, for the audience to talk about and chit-chat, but the real decision makers, they should meet and discuss behind closed doors what is really possible and meaningful. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. And also I want to know about US strategy in China, how, for example, now Donald Trump also changed his mind, I think, and start to mellow it on his strategy about Chinese vehicle market also. How do you see this view would be improved?
I mean, this is a little bit of guesswork now. You know, we are still 100 days away from the election. Now we see the changing of the candidate from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris. And I think what we are going to expect if and when Donald Trump is going to be elected, it's very clear. I mean, he will just continue what he has done 4 years ago. And he will do business with China or politics with China like he conducted his business. You know? And he says, okay, what's in it for me being America? And he will just look at the odds, you know, and he will look at the balance sheets, of the political balance sheet.
He's also open for...
And I think he is open for business. And if China is smart, they will also expect that. And I'm sure they are preparing for it. They will see what they can offer in which segments of the business. They know where they have their strengths and their weaknesses. So I think there's no other country in the world which will be better prepared for a presidency of Donald Trump than China.
My second question is, I want to know how do you see German electric vehicle market can be improved in Asia? Which strategy they should choose, and what is your point of view?
Well, I think first of all the German EV cars and the whole industry surrounding it, they have a lot of homework to do here in Germany first. So traditionally we know that all these companies where we say, hey, you need to do more in Asia because this is the booming part of the world, you have high growth rates, you have big cities, you have huge infrastructure developments, why don't you participate? The big problem for most of these companies, they don't have the resources to address all these markets at the same time, because it requires management attention, it requires money, it requires facilities, it requires dedication. So that is a challenge, and we have a challenge for these companies in all of the German industries for qualified people, you know, in the management as well as in the production. So I see a big problem that the people are just not there to manage the market entry, the market expansion in Asia Pacific. So the only logical solution for me is they need to work together and find qualified, trustworthy, sincere joint venture partners in all of these markets. And then they need to find a formula where they are working together, hand in hand, as a family. They bring the technology, the brand, the reputation, the experience, whereas the local partner brings the local distribution network, all the regulatory issues, the land and the factory, physical, the buildings, the machinery, etc. And in my way, that requires a lot of attention by the management, because it's not easy. Like in life, when you are young, you are looking for a partner. You are not sure whether you want to get married or get children, and some people just test the water. And this is a process, but it has to be started. And it's like running a marathon. It always starts with the first mile. And if you don't do that, if you don't practice, if you don't try, sometimes you make errors. That's good. Make the errors early, then you know you have to change your direction. So my recommendation is choose not all countries at the same time, but choose interesting countries for your market. And it's a huge difference whether you are looking at Indonesia or Singapore or Malaysia or Vietnam. And all of these countries, they have a different set of criteria you need to look at. And this is where local consultants, local partners can really help you. And today we have a very transparent market. Not everything is written in Google, but with a few tricks of the trade, you can really read and analyze the market properly and come up with a good solution and a good strategy.
Do you know giants like BMW, Audi and Mercedes already have this strategy, how they work and improve this relationship?
Well, all these big companies, they are in Asia for many, many decades. So whatever I just told, they know. I'm 100% sure. If they don't, they have a problem. But the Tier 1 and Tier 2 companies, which are the German SME industry, they are not present in this market as much as the OEM brands. They are the supplier, the subcontractor, and the large ones like, for example, Bosch, or the tire manufacturers, the large Tier 1 suppliers, they are all there. They followed the market leaders. It was a pull effect when Volkswagen invests in China. Many of their large sub-suppliers from Germany, they follow them. And they have also established themselves in the market. But I'm looking at the Tier 2 and even sometimes Tier 3 suppliers. They also need to do that because they are under challenge. And if they don't, they will have trouble to survive in the long run.
You also mentioned about subsidies, and we talk about that Chinese government has subsidies for Chinese-made car. But what do you think? Maybe German government also should help support some car companies to do this.
Well, the question of subsidies is a difficult one, and I, by definition, I'm against subsidies, whatever they are. But subsidies represent certain political wills of the government, of the ruling parties. And even the German government, they are giving out huge subsidies for companies now to invest in Germany, like for Intel or the large battery manufacturer in northern Germany. They get billions of dollars in subsidies. And they say we need to have a strategic position where these products are manufactured in Germany. So you cannot separate subsidies from a pure economic point of view from the political point of view. So if the political decision makers say we want to have the political decision, yes, this product needs to be manufactured here for strategic and political and safety reason, whatever, then it will cost a price, and the price is a subsidy. Because without the subsidy, these companies will not come. But generally speaking, I'm not in favor of subsidies. Each and every business case has to be profitable without the subsidy. And if the subsidy comes on top, of course, companies take it because it's like free money. But the best business cases are those who are working without the subsidies.
Yeah, got it. And also I want to know your opinion about original equipment industry, how they improve in Asia and in other countries like China, India. What do you think?
Well, we discussed it a little bit before already, when I said all the large OEMs are there for decades, if not 50 or 100 years already. So they know what the challenges are. What I feel also a little bit is that there is no consistency in the terms of top management. Very often you have people leading the companies there for 4 or 5 years, and then they change the top management. So, which is a challenge for each and every company in Asia. So I think it's wise or smart to have at least a tandem where one person is there for a long period and sees the big picture and the long march, so to say, whereas new managers come and go and they give new trigger points, new motivation, have a new link with the head office. So that's a constant operational issue these companies have to face. But in terms of what the OEMs should do, they should know. They know that it's a big problem because sales numbers are going down. They really have a challenge in their markets.
And I also want to come back a little about political situation. How do you see the Green Party and Right Party? What they are like? Which effect they have for this industry?
Well, I think that's again another topic we can have hours of discussion. And I notice that there is a little bit of called German bashing. We are not having the growth rate anymore. We are not as high in the rankings of competitiveness. But I wouldn't write off Germany altogether. Germany has a very strong Mittelstand. All my customers we are dealing with, they don't have a big problem. They have good revenue. They have a good usage of their capacities. They are struggling to find people who are qualified. They are complaining that the tax is too high, but this is what they do for the last decade. So it's more like getting a little bit of new motivation. What is a new vision? And we see that, coming back to your question of the government and the parties, maybe the present coalition of the SPD and the Green and the Liberals, they were overdoing a little bit. They have good intention by reducing CO2 emissions, by becoming green in terms of energy, by pushing the electrical vehicles, but it was maybe too much, too fast. And in Germany we know people are very conservative when it comes to change. So a smart politician has to look at how do I sell my political message to the broad population and get their support. Because if they don't do, after 4 years they will be elected out of government and they can do nothing. And I think that was maybe a little bit of, let's say, over-enthusiasm on the Green side. On top of that, we had the big elephant, the Russian-Ukraine war, which was turning everything upside down. So all the things they wanted to do fast anyway had to be done even faster. So it was a huge turmoil and people were working 24/7 and naturally they made mistakes. And the mistakes are now firing back. If you're looking at the polls, the Green Party numbers are not really impressive and the upcoming elections will show that they have a bit of a challenge ahead. We have seen that at the European Parliament election already, where the Greens suffered in terms of votes. Now we have a regional election coming up in Eastern Germany. It's going to be very interesting because this is where Germany expects that the right-wing parties from AfD will be...
What is your expectation?
Well, I read the polls. I'm not in favor of the AfD, so I hope they don't getting the big numbers. But all the polls, they are more or less steady. And we see a lot of voters who are willing to vote for the AfDs. And then, I mean, it's a democracy and the political will decide. And then, if they are elected, they have to prove that they are able to deliver. So we will see, and may the best man win. You know?
Okay, can you please tell me about electric motorcycle? What do you think German or in other Europe countries, how they should find the way to be successful in Asia also? Because I think it is very a good strategy to improve there.
Yeah, well, that's a challenging question and not so easy to answer, you know, because if you look at the motorcycle market in Asia Pacific, you see a lot of the small-sized vehicles, and you have Suzuki, Honda, many Japanese brands. I can hardly think of a German motorcycle company which is in mass production in Asia. And so I think if they really want to compete in Asia, they really have to come up with a very smart marketing strategy. They will probably not be able to compete with the likes of the Japanese brands, the Korean brands, and we see probably a little bit more in the leisure market, you know, where you are cruising with a 1000cc BMW, and you are not going through the traffic jam, sneaking around the traffic jam with a big BMW. Yeah. So not an easy question to answer. Electrical motorcycles are going to be an interesting topic. And again, overall, I think they will not be able to do it alone. Again, they need to find smart partners. They need to combine their strategy with probably a service concept, maybe with a food delivery company, which is packaging some crazy ideas, with financial investors who can do that, with a software company. So they really have to think outside the box if they are going to get some kind of market share there.
Yeah, I think it's also very different cultural about motorcycling in Europe Union and Asia. It is completely different.
In Asia it's a need, here it's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's really interesting questions. And my last question is about, please could you give entrepreneurs or businessmen's advice how they have to be successful in German market, or they should have strategy to build good relationship with Asia and other countries?
Well, that's again a very broad question, you know, and you can read any textbook on economy and business and business administration. I think at the end of the day, you need to listen to the customer. Very simple. Yeah? So if you have an idea about a new service or a new product, it will not fly if the customers don't want or don't need it or cannot afford it. So I think this is something I also have probably learned in my 20, 30 years experience in Asia. Don't sit in your closed door garage and draw something or fiddle around with some physical stuff. Go out into the market and talk to people. They will tell you what they want and what they need and what they are willing to buy. And if you are off the track, then go back to a drawing board and ask your customer first before you invest more time and energy in something which nobody wants at the end of the day.
Which market is more interesting nowadays for in German, for example, to be changed and to be successful?
Well, that's something. Let me just think for a second if I can answer that. I think Germany has a huge shortage in everything related to service. No, and you notice that when you go in a restaurant in Asia and you go in a restaurant here, or if you check in a hotel. I mean, in all the hotels you probably have to carry your luggage yourself. In Asia, that's a no-go, and that definitely is a result of, let's say, availability of human resources. So any solution which is helping to bridge this shortage, I'm sure they will have a good business case to look at. Yeah. There are many others. Traffic we have mentioned, energy saving, communication, software. There are so many things to do apart from the physical issues we have with traffic and highways and buildings. So the market is very open and hungry for new ideas.
Thank you very much for your answers, and thank you our audience for watching this video, and we are going to see you again.
Thank you very much for having me, and any questions, feel free to reach out. You will find my contacts via our website, which is gbp-international.com. You will find my contact numbers and WhatsApp, LinkedIn. So looking forward to continue our discussion. Thank you.